I'm very pleased now to invite Catherine McLaughlin to the stage. Now, we've heard a lot so far today about the importance of the Sport England local delivery pilot, a great project which enables us to balance the newness of Cranbrook against Exeter as an established area and bring the best of both worlds to learning about how we can promote physical activity, make it fun and easy for people to do. And Catherine is the strategic lead for children and families for Sport England, so fits perfectly with the Cranbrook demographic. Thank you.
Thank you. I was part of the Sport England assessment team, so I'm genuinely thrilled to be back in Cranbrook because I fought really hard for the Exeter and Cranbrook project to be included. And it really struck me then how hopeful and ambitious you were for that community. That doesn't mean you were ever blind to the challenges and complexities, but you brought hope and ambition to the table. And I think it's really easy to get very, very tired and frustrated because the world is a difficult and complicated place. But I suppose my message to you is I came away feeling hopeful for that community. And I think today maybe you need to reconnect with some of those feelings of hope. And it's not kind of a motherhood and apple pie, everything's wonderful. It's like if we start with the people in the community, then actually that hope will come naturally, because if you have the right conversations, you will see the resilience and the excitement and the potential within that community. So just a bit of a pep talk, because it's tough. It's a really complicated thing to achieve. I'm going to talk just very, very quickly about the real challenges we have around activity, both for children, young people, and adults. And actually, if we try to bundle them together as a family, that means we have a whole complicated set of things that we need to negotiate. So just go back. So for adults, we know that there are about 11.3 million adults in the country, well, in England, who are doing less than 30 minutes of activity a week. Now, I sometimes think it's like I would really struggle to do less than 30 minutes because it seems like a relatively easy thing to achieve. But actually, we know there are all sorts of reasons why people don't achieve that. And as of December, we had the very first national statistic around children's activity levels. I don't have a sports background. My background was children and families. And so I was genuinely shocked that the figures I'd understood and read about were not actually national robust statistics. So we now have a really true and slightly depressing picture about the levels of children's activity. So we know that about 17.5% are doing that 60 minutes every day. And actually, it's quite hard for children. Adults get away with an average. Children have to do 60 minutes every single day, or they fall out of that active category. That might be changing. I couldn't possibly comment, but I think actually it's really hard to benchmark because we're all allowed a rest day, actually. Is it really awful where there's one day in a week where a massively active child who might have banked 6 hours of activity in the week doesn't do anything on a Sunday, and then is suddenly categorised as not meeting the CMO guidelines. So I think there's a big debate to be had there. But I think with all of these statistics, and I think it's really important to think about this for Cranbrook, is the devil is in the detail. This is the average. There's a different story for girls, there's a different story for children with disabilities, and there's a massively different story for people from different ethnicities. And I think we can see that there is not one point in children's life where they're doing enough exercise, essentially, or enough of them are doing enough exercise. All of this data is available via our Active Lives Children and Young People report. There's linked to data tables. If we have data geeks in the room, you can fill your boots with data from this report. But there's that real clarity that we have a problem from reception, essentially. And I think one of the fascinating things for me was we have a gender gap starting in year one. And so we really, really need to think very hard and long about what is happening to small girls, because even in reception, they are less active than their male peers. Again, it's a more pronounced difference for children of different ethnicities. And I know I've talked informally with a number of you about that 0 to 5 agenda. And again, I think we all collectively need a big conversation about that, because not only are children generically not active enough, we can see that baseline level of girls' physical activity already being apparent in reception in year one. But I think, and it will be no surprise to anybody in this room, the biggest determinant of physical activity in children is family affluence. The correlation between income levels and activity, whether in or out of school, is really, really stark. And fascinatingly, it doesn't really impact on the type of school you go to. You're still going to come up with these activity levels. And so for me, whose kind of strategic role is to focus on low-income families, this is a really sobering picture that actually, and we kind of knew this, I think, that actually family income levels have a detrimental effect on activity levels, because we know actually the activity on offer at the moment comes with either a real or a perceived price tag. And I think, again, we need to address that. Now, it's not always a true price tag, but it is perceived. And I think this is a really interesting thing, and I think it comes back to the role that kind of money and facilities play. If we want to make things easy and accessible, we have to do it in a way that doesn't require parents to pay X amounts a week for 12 weeks of anything. We need to be thinking about self-organised activity, we need to be thinking about our green spaces, and we need to really be thinking about how we enable communities to claim those green spaces as their own, to say, actually, this is a space for me and my family to be, this is a safe space, and to know how to use play equipment, to know how to kind of do some basic orienteering, whatever that might be. So I could go on about this for ages and ages, but I'm going to restrain myself. So why families? In a weird way, it'd be really easy to pick off children and concentrate on sorting out their activity levels. But actually, we know that parental influence is strong and pervasive, and it's stronger than parents themselves think it is. Okay, so lots of people say, oh, my kids don't want to be involved. I'm frankly an embarrassment. Me and Lycra, my kids would kill me. But actually, the research says that if children see the significant adults in their lives either being active or volunteering or eating healthily or any of those other determinants we're all passionate about, they are much more likely to undertake it themselves. So I think there's that really, really key thing. We need to use that motivation and we need to use that role modelling. And we also know that families face multiple inequalities, and actually unless we start with the family and understand the barriers and the difficulties that family as a whole are facing, we're never going to sort out a child or an individual without that family focus. So there is something for me really strong, and it is a bit like 2 for the price of 1, that if we get a family active together, we not only create an active child, we hopefully get some of those adults into that active space as well. But it's that long-term pull as well, that if children associate physical activity as a joyful moment in what might be a very difficult, very complex, and at times chaotic family life, if we can make that association between joy, fun, and excitement, and doing something that gets you a little bit out of breath, that is transformative for that family. It might be the only time they spend together in the week. It might be the only time they talk as a family. And if we can bundle all of that up, we know there's a massive opportunity there. And it is, we all as families struggle for time, and parents fall into the role of being a facilitator and a taxi. If I added up the hours I spent sat outside a leisure centre or a playing pitch watching small children run around and be terribly healthy, and I sat on my phone or worked, actually, do you know what? We have a sitting market on occasion. Sports clubs could double their membership overnight if they had a programme to actively engage the people sitting in their cars or on the touchline. So I just think it's a little bit of a no-brainer. So the fund I'm managing is all about supporting families to be active together, particularly those from low socioeconomic groups. It's about building activity in throughout the day. It's not a 12-week programme of anything. We were laughing about this last night. The number of people who said, can you fund me to run a 12-week programme of X? And I've pretty much said no, because it's very rarely about a 12-week programme of X. It's about starting with the family in front of you, understanding their motivations, and trying to create a time and a space and a place that they can do something fun and enjoyable together. And I think this idea about positive experiences, we know that as children hit adolescence, they suddenly stop messing around and playing outside and doing all of those fun things. And they suddenly stop playing football for this sheer joy and fun of it, because there's a shift that happens that suddenly says you have to be competent at something. It doesn't matter how much you enjoy something. If you're not good at it, you should stop doing it. So I've seen that with my own children in something like gymnastics. They've loved it for years, and then suddenly it's like, yeah, but I will never be in the elite team, so I'm going to stop. And this sudden thing that we don't encourage activity for the joy of activity. And again, I think we need to work with our sports infrastructure to think what a really inclusive and accessible space might look be, where you can carry on doing gymnastics just because you love it. You know, you may never take another exam in your life, but you go back every week because you have a blast. I think this thing about fun first, lots of the projects I'm working with, we don't go anywhere near breaking a sweat for a good couple of weeks. You know, it might start with a fish and chip supper, and after that song at lunchtime, do you know what? It's a bloody good place to start. If that gets families in the door, and if we can build a community walk around that fish and chip supper that might, you know, morph into a park run at some point, you know, start with where people are at, start with where their passions lie, and sneak in activity around the back. Don't call it sport, call it whatever the heck you like, but be really creative with how you go about generating that fun. And don't underestimate how scary some of the spaces that we take for granted are. A lot of the families we're talking with, I was talking about to a leisure provider earlier, and they say they've got these massive big leisure centres with these big glass doors, big glass windows, we can see the swimming pool, and then we go near the automatic opening doors, and there's a row of turnstiles. And you know, what's that about? I don't understand the turnstiles, I don't know what they're there. Do you have to have a magic token? Do you say some magic words? Is it like Harry Potter? And so there are people living directly near a leisure centre, and there's an invisible force field around that space, which makes that completely inaccessible to them. So sometimes we literally need to take people by the hand, tell them how the turnstiles work, or think about what function are those turnstiles serving? Why are they there? And does their kind of the benefit to other gym users outweigh that really, it's like libraries don't have them. I've never been in a building with turnstiles. So we need to be really, really careful about some of that logistical and emotional support. You know, if you want somebody to come to a session, they need to know what to wear. I've taken my children to cricket. Everyone else was in cricket whites. The mothers all had picnics. My kids turned up in shorts and a t-shirt, and I scrabbled a little bit of like manky cereal bar out of the bottom of my handbag. And just that sense that I'd missed a memo, that I didn't know how to get to, I'd never played cricket. Why would I know that that was the uniform? Particularly for a training practice. And my daughter never went back because, no matter what I said, it was like, no, I felt like a fool. I wasn't wearing the right thing. And I didn't understand how you played cricket on a Friday night in a small village in Essex. So, don't underestimate what it feels like to do something for the first time. Free play is really important, and it's free, genuinely, in all senses of the world. I think we're all missing a trick. Can we extend that period of time where children mess about outside? Is there a way where we can create the environment and the permission that it's okay to carry on messing around? Because again, there suddenly seems to be a switch where it's no longer cool to, run around and play tag or build a den or something. Is there a possibility that we can really stretch that? And there's something about everything counts. It doesn't have to involve wearing trainers. It doesn't have to involve a Fitbit. A brisk walk to the shops, a brisk walk to the park or to school is enough. So there's something about, there are very few activities that are not age segregated. Family swim, possibly the only exception. What else can you do as a family that is sporty, that is organised and put on? There is there is so little out there. When you've got your under fives, there's those hideous multi-surface play centres, where you have to sit in a ball pool and pretend you're having fun. But actually, once your child hits 5, it's pretty much a family swim. There's no exercise classes you can do together. There is almost nothing. So really think about that. Invite parents to sessions. Ask them to come for the warm-up. Ask them to come for the cool-down. Encourage them. And this thing about trying this at home, make the children the community activators. Give them the skills to prime their parents. Make it part of the homework to say, your task is to get your mum and dad out on a walk. Time it, draw it, do what you like, but really, really emphasise that all the time. So, again, I'm very late to sport and physical activity. My passion has been children and families who are really struggling. And I've come to believe that actually that sport and physical activity play a massive role in that. Because what the Active Lives data in December showed us, that the more active a child was, the more resilient they were. The more active they were, the more confident they were. The more active they were, the more likely they were to volunteer. So we're all missing a massive trick if we don't do something about this. And tomorrow, we publish the Active Lives attitudinal data, which again will be the first national statistic around children's attitude towards sport and physical activity. We've got the data, and hopefully as of tomorrow, when it's all revealed, we'll begin to understand some of their motivations, how sport and physical activity makes them feel. And again, I think that will be a really good building block for us all to move from. So this is Midland Mencat Park Ride, who we're funding. They provide free mainstream and adaptive bikes for the whole family that families can borrow and go out into a local park. And this project is growing and growing. Families are now playing badminton together completely off their own back. The children are cycling further and further each week. We have grannies, we have aunts, we have uncles, we have children moving up the range of bikes really, really quickly. And so for me, if you take nothing away from today, keep hold of that sense of joy and sense of excitement. Start with the people in front of you. Trust the people in front of you. And don't forget place, because it plays a really, really huge part in how people relate to you and their environment. I thought if I spoke really quickly, we'd get the time back.